XDefiant has been out for 2 months now, and it's pretty safe to say that this game is exactly what I hoped it would be, if not more. XDefiant is so ridiculously entertaining compared to the dumpster fire CoD games of the last few years that I doubt even with everything that Black Ops 6 offers in regards to gameplay, XDefiant will still be better. A lot of Call of Duty content creators, including myself, are getting pigeonholed for quote-unquote glazing XDefiant, constantly singing its praises. And a lot of the reasoning behind those claims is simply that we want to see CoD lose the battle in the FPS genre, and that the game is not actually as good as we're saying it is. But to counter that clearly flawed logic, I want you to take a genuine and honest look at what XDefiant is doing and how darn much the game is actually delivered. At the core, the game is already better than CoD because of the lack of skill-based matchmaking, or if I were to speak more accurately, the lack of engagement-optimized matchmaking, or if I were to speak with pinpoint accuracy, the lack of rigged matchmaking that tailors every match to increase the chances of you getting addicted and spending money on skins and other cosmetics. XDefiant in no way, shape, or form manipulates your gameplay or matchmaking in order to breed sales from players. XDefiant is a rare passion project that you can only really see once in a lifetime nowadays, and that's an opportunity that we cannot take for granted. Further, the gameplay, weapon balancing, and the maps were all designed by ex-CoD devs and professional CoD players. And while that may sound a bit too serious for a game with pretty casual levels of matchmaking, you must realize that this ensures that the gameplay is of the highest possible quality. Unlike CoD, which plays around with goofy map structures and safe spaces to make sure they cater as hard as humanly possible to players that suck at the game that can't aim or move fast enough to get a positive KD, XDefiant designs maps with competitive integrity in mind and basically ensures that every angle has reasonable counter angles. Every objective can be played in a vast variety of different ways, and no one can get away with camping for too long because of how much the map design encourages movement and constant adaptation. And this is an awesome thing. Arcade shooters like CoD are meant to be fast-paced, action-packed, and interesting to play. And unfortunately, in trying to cater to everybody, Call of Duty has killed a lot of the momentum of the actual gameplay because they're trying to make sure the pace of play and the map design isn't too daunting for ultra-casual players that want to turn their brain off and get a few kills. This is highly disappointing, and it ruins the classic feel that Call of Duty has maintained for the better part of its legacy, and the rigged matchmaking also doesn't help with that. XDefiant knows exactly what it is, whereas CoD is trying to be Fortnite, where it's everything at once, with constant live service updates, but still an annual release to try to suck $70 out of everybody. And the annual release formula makes no legitimate sense when you think about it, because that means in order to force consumers into buying the next game, the current game has to lack something that the next game has. Blame Truth has put it perfectly. They'll never make a game so good that you won't buy the next one, and this is on purpose. However, XDefiant is free to play, and a single release that won't have an annual rebranding that constantly gets content added to it, which means that this game will have more content than any Call of Duty has ever had, and CoD won't be able to do anything about it. Think about it. Eventually, CoD will have to release a new title with new maps, new guns, and new gameplay, but XDefiant will also just be adding content into their already existing game, which will constantly be growing week after week. Eventually, it will be impossible to design a Call of Duty game that can match the sheer amount of content that XDefiant will have, and they'll have to rely solely on marketing, promising certain nostalgic content that they withheld from us the previous year on purpose, and probably promoting ridiculous full-price DLC content for already existing games, like we saw with Modern Warfare 3 being a DLC to Modern Warfare 2, but still being $70. Call of Duty is competing with a game that offers far better matchmaking, far better gameplay in terms of the maps and match flow, and eventually, far more content that is just going to be constantly piled on top of the last batch of content. Despite abusing the Black Ops name and dropping new movement mechanics in their legacy prestige system, there's no way that Black Ops 6 will be any fun at all unless the matchmaking is changed. But as I said earlier, CoD will keep relying on cheap marketing strategies like withholding certain content until the next year. For a great example, when we get the Black Ops 2 sequel in 2025, that game is rumored to have the Pick 10 system returning. Another nostalgic feature that is beloved by so many fans, but we have to wait over a year to get our hands on it after its absence for 6 years. Call of Duty isn't a game anymore. It's a marketing scheme, driven by corporate suits that have no regard for the actual integrity of the game, or the enjoyment of the players beyond the ones that purely shill out money because they think they're better than they actually are. I know it's silly to think that in a capitalist society, the top dogs will choose passion and integrity over purely making money, but XDefiant's explosion in popularity is proof that the FPS community is starved for an actually good game. We're starved for a passion project that puts integrity and fun over manipulation and money. And as a result, they're raking in the player count and they're raking in the dollar bills. They're filling a void where the corporate suits aren't abusing passionate game devs just to make money and ruining their games once they're complete by adding engagement optimized matchmaking and so forth. Recently, Drifter put out a video saying there was a chance that Call of Duty will go the way of XDefiant in regards to their matchmaking, simply because of how much everyone loves XDefiant's matchmaking, with the exception of the occasional guy that complains on Twitter that they can't stand the sweats. Skill issue. While this would convince me to buy and play Black Ops 6, it's still impossible to overlook the sheer brilliance of XDefiant. The game is absolute genius, And although it was a risk to release it in this current climate of gaming, it was absolutely worth it, as it caused a huge upset and encouraged a lot of players to shift from CoD to XDefiant. It's beautiful to see a passion project of ex-CoD devs and pros come to fruition for the enjoyment of FPS lovers. This game absolutely delivered a quality experience, despite some issues with hit registration that are being fixed as we speak, and maybe some bugs here and there, and some wacky balancing of some abilities. But if you act like hit registration is the death of XDefiant, then you must not be familiar with Call of Duty manipulating your hit reg on purpose when you're shooting at worse players, and your ping being sacrificed for tailored matches, and the maps being designed for terrible players to be able to sit in a protected corner and rack up kills. Before you criticize XDefiant, which we all definitely can in some areas, consider what it's doing for the genre. It's a piece of art among money-hungry dumpster fires. It stays true to what it is while its main competitor has no identity. It offers an experience that is way more redeeming and satisfying than playing CoD has been for the last 6 years. And it may just inspire change in CoD because of its success, but saying XDefiant sucks is such an ill-informed opinion when you realize how well designed the game actually is compared to the game that someone that says this will actually shill for. They'll knock XDefiant and then defend a game with rigged matchmaking, overpriced cosmetics, manipulated gameplay, intentionally badly designed maps, paywalled overpowered guns that get nerfed once the next battle pass comes out, and a yearly release that fronts you at least $70 to play a game with everything I just named in it. And with the release of Black Ops 6 coming up, it's about that time for the COD shills to start huffing on that copium. And of course, no surprise, they are. But unless this next game has no EOMM and matchmakes purely based on ping and ping alone, so many players are going to stick to XDefiant. Mark my words. We are catching on, and XDefiant gets better by the day. Cancel your pre-order for Black Ops 6 because it is not worth it. But that's all I've got for now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm Prime Pete. Take it easy.